Here in the Appalachian Mountains, me and Brandon cut out the front flap for a possibles bag.
The leather was used in the 1940s in an old shoe factory, which we kept for years. I had it from an old man that was a leather craftsman that gave it to me. We don't have to buy everything around here. So we cut this 14.5 wide and 13 down. And then to get your rounded bottom to your possibles bag, you can use anything round and just lay it on there. And we use a utility knife, and it has to be sharp. And you can have plywood as your bottom of where you cut, and just lay that lid on there and follow the edge of your lid to whatever roundness you want your possible bag to be. And do the same for the other side. Now that'll be our bottom. Then we'll have that 1940s shown. So now when you want to cut your flap and the back side of your possibles bag, you got to do it together. And we start it with a T-square. That's how we cut our square areas. So now I'll lay this down on a square edge of the leather that we cut already. I'll take this square edge and I'll use the front piece of the possibles bag as a pattern. And I'll lay that on top. And then we got to square this piece of leather with your workbench, because we have a square cut piece of leather now because we used our T-square. And all we have to do is set the T-square up on the workbench, square our leather, and now it's on the edge. And the bottom part of the flap is on there too, so we're ready to cut it. And it has to be a lot longer than your front piece, because the flap goes out over your possibles bag. So you're going almost twice as long, depending on how far down you want your lid. And I'll cut that. See how nice that cuts with the utility knife? Make sure that you got a new blade, like I said before. And then we'll cut this square and we'll work it down to the size we need by simply fitting it on the front part of your possibles bag. So I'll square it and cut the front part of the lid now. So now, if you like this side of leather, you use that, and then turn the inside of leather inside both sides, and then you're ready for your flap. And if you want your flap to come down closer to the bottom, that's pretty good right there. Or if you want a little shorter, you can make it a little shorter. Now you got to cut your rounded parts to match your bottom. So you just join it up. The bottom wasn't perfectly square because we kept the 1940s part. That was an old cut. So now I'll go and match up that circular cut by holding the leather down and running your utility knife around. And the same with the other side. Okay, and then I'll show you in a little bit how to make the holes. Corey and I are gonna make some holes here.
We got the possibles bag cut out, but before we punch the holes and start sewing it together, we need to fringe the lid.
Okay, so this is the front we started with, and we cut the back longer like we said. So now we're going to make fringes in the front of the lid like Corey said. And we'll just take the front of that and hold it on the edge of our work table, make it easy. So now to get a straight line across there without measuring a whole lot, we can just take a pencil, and that's where we end our fringes. Now we'll hold this square, and we can start in the middle if you want. Make it easy. And just start by cutting down. You don't have to cut the whole way so the fringes don't move. If you don't want to, you can finish your cut at the end and hold your T-square on there, square the whole time. And watch your fringes, make sure they're even. And I'm cutting them about 3/16 wide. And I got one started. I'll go over 3/16 here. You can eye it. You don't have to measure everything out. The Indians didn't have tape measures. Neither did the mountain men. And then I just go across about 3/16 across at each one. Corey can zoom in there. You can see how it looks. I got about 3/16 here. I'm gonna cut another fringe. Another 3/16. And you just keep sliding your T-square across. Okay, now we got everything cut out. We got our fringes all done. And we need to make the holes to sew. You can use a compass or your pencil. Hold it nice and even along the edge the whole way with your finger. Or you can use the tool made for it. Little scratch awl like I got here, and I just hold the edge on here. I'm going to put a nice light line across, and then that makes a mark for your holes. And we're just going to do the top piece, and I'll start probably a 1/4 inch down with the first hole, but this is the best tool I found. I bought it at Tandy Leather, and when Corey and I punch our leather out, we use this all the time because it keeps your holes straight in line. There's 4 prongs here. You can cut 4 holes at once. So I'll start a 1/4 inch down on that line, and I'll pound. And I'll kind of rock it back and forth, and you can see the holes go right in there. So when you make your next row, you just put it in the last hole. So then you're evenly spaced. Your 4th hole, so then you'll have 7 holes the next round. And keep it in line, and then you start your holes. Look how nice that does. Now I have a rubber mat underneath when we cut holes, and I just keep going with this hammer and this punch. That's quicker than anything else you're going to find out there, unless you have a sewing machine. Okay, now we'll show you once we get it all done how to sew.
We hammered holes into the front flap of leather, and now we're getting ready to drill them into the back.
Now I clamped it fast here, and we'll just use a real small drill bit and start drilling in each hole. And we'll go down the whole way. That way you know your holes line up. And we'll show you when we're done here. Alright, so we're ready for the strap. And what we did was we used our T-square and went along both edges of the strap and cut it out. And we make the nice ends like this. You have like a pattern, you can set it on top and just trace it and cut it out. I'll show you here. I'll just set it in the middle. It's not exactly made for this strap, but we just take a pencil and then mark it, and then take our knife, go along the pencil line, cut it out. It makes a nice strap. So before we do that, I want to say, if you don't have the tool like we had to punch the holes, and you don't want to go through all the trouble putting all them holes in, you can just take your drill, clamp both pieces down from the start, and make your holes all at once. But what we're going to do when we put the strap on is keep them together where they belong, and mark where the back side would be with a pencil, where the straps need to go on the back piece. So now that we have two little lines there, we're going to take our strap and set it on about where we want the strap to be placed. Probably a 1/2 inch from your stitching, about 2 inches down on the back side of your pouch. And then we'll just drill 4 holes or use our punch. I'll probably put 8 holes to hold it good here. Right in the center. I'll mark this piece. I can go the whole way down. And then punch it in. But to make sure you got the holes the whole way through, just take your drill and go through like that. And now we're ready to stitch after this. Hey, my boy and I finished up our possibles bag. It's a true Appalachian possibles bag. What we had to do was sew it once we had our holes in, and you could use a needle and thread, or if you had the holes big enough, you can just run the thread through if you have enough space. And we had to put a button on there, so we used a buck antler, and we just drilled 2 holes, and we threaded it through the lid of the possibles bag. And we use this rope as a latch, and you just put it down over top and pull to make it close. And that's the old way of doing it. And I just drilled 2 holes down here, big enough to fit a leather strap through that I cut out with a utility knife. And you just pull it through. And it's about 1.25 inches apart. But that's one piece in the back like we cut. That's our strap. And we just sewed it on with 8 holes, 4 and 4. And you can see that there. Another tip would be to, if your edges aren't perfect when you cut them, just take sandpaper and round it a little smoother. So, I'll show you here how nice it fits when you're wearing it. You can adjust the strap to any size you want.